Welcome back to the I Drink From Skulls podcast. It's your host, Matt Smith here. And with me today, it warms my heart. We have the pimp from Pampa, the legend from Lubbock, a family man, and one of the guys that got me started in the roofing industry, a family man, Mr. Andrew Ammons. Welcome to the show, my good man.
Thank you for having me, Matt. I appreciate it. That's my formal response there. But it's been a long time, man. I'm just happy to see you. Like outside of the Facebook comments back and forth, it's good to see you again.
Let's go. I drink from skulls, drink from the skulls of my enemies.
Spend some time. We go back a hot minute, don't we?
We do. I was thinking about it before we started the show, and I still remember. Good Lord, was that 2015? Maybe 16? Some of the first live broadcasts I'd ever done were with you, and we did some sort of. We sure tried to stay consistent with it, but we did some Facebook stuff, and don't know what we were pushing, what we were promoting. I think we were just trying to figure the shit out, right?
Yeah. Back in the day, we were just trying to be consistent and get something out there and give some value. So
yeah. So it's been a minute, and you know what? The last probably 3 to 5 years, both of us have gotten pretty damn busy outside of just the day-to-day stuff. So have lost a little bit of our connection. So if today is just our reconnection, we get to talk again and hang out. I'm happy. It's served the purpose for me.
That's awesome, man. For the people watching along and listening, who is Andrew Ammons?
Oh, Lord. That's a multifaceted question. It depends on the hour of the day. I am I guess you could call myself a serial entrepreneur. I am a family man, recently discovered. There's a very long period of my life where I really believed that all I was supposed to be about was hammering down business, grinding. But recently have really discovered the joy that I get from being a family man. I would describe myself as, an entrepreneur, a dad, a pilot in training, an investor in training, a leader in training. I'm just trying to get better every day and learn and do anything I can do to bring value and create abundance for the people around me. That's who Andrew is.
Wow. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And you've got a few different businesses. So I'd love to hear a bit more about that. Talk us through.
Yeah. So not most, everything I do is centered around real estate of some sort. So I would like to say when people ask me, what do you do for a living? It's easiest to just say real estate, but the truth is it's all different sides of that. So I met you, of course, way back when I was strictly doing contracting. That was residential roofing when we first got together. I currently own a commercial roofing company, a commercial building envelope and consulting company. Also got a property management company that is in the residential space, and building a real estate portfolio and
Nice.
Working on some kind of startup projects that have to do with machine vision and drones, all relating back to managing real estate portfolios. So healthy mix, but all centered around real estate.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Love that.
Yeah. Telling that story is too much time.
Is that what you say to someone at a party? At a barbecue?
I haven't figured out what to say to somebody at a party.
Yeah.
What do you do? It's like, do you have an hour?
I just say I type words on Facebook and troll people, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah.
That's what I do.
I have gotten to the point to where when somebody asks me, I say real estate or multiple business centered around real estate, which of course always opens up the questions.
Yeah, cool. And it's that I remember back many years ago when I've asked you this probably 5 years ago, but how you were able to get some traction, and it was from memory, it was through relationships in the real estate space initially. Is that sort of how you found a good mark in the industry?
As far as roofing goes?
Yeah, for roofing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that when me and you first started doing our work together, I was a little bit seduced by some of the marketing ploys and all the people that were out there selling ads and selling leads and all this stuff. And not to say at all that there's not major value in that to grow and scale your business. However, yes, I mean, the main traction that I got starting out and the traction I continue to gain is through relationships. I mean, those are the things that tend to catapult you from one level of your business to the next. So yes, the large work that I would have been working on when me and you first met, it was coming by one of two ways. It was either a relationship, or it was from having the opportunity to do something small for somebody and provide real value that eventually brought that customer up in the value chain into doing larger work for.
Yeah, I love that.
For
I think
sure.
that applies to any industry, any business. Relationships are key.
Yeah, relationships and people, people are always looking, and I think it has to do a lot with what we're trained to believe that our peers are achieving through social media, through the lens of social media. People are so trained to go after the big job, or the big money, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is yet, because it turns out every level that I get to when it pertains to money, there's somebody with a lot more money around the corner. So whatever that means, a lot of money to your listener, to you. It just seems to me that everybody chases that, and they miss the steps of providing value to somebody. In my world, whether it is a small leak that you need to fix for somebody, or a simple service call to tell somebody what's going on with their roofing system or when the warranty is up, people neglect those things because they don't see value in them. And those people are fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Because you miss out, man.
100%.
You miss out.
It's interesting you say that. The number of times because we track and measure, hundreds of calls and leads and things every day, and the number that get missed, the number of calls that don't get made back, number of hot opportunities that just aren't even looked at, or alternatively, they're shelved to the side for something bigger or better. It boggles the mind. It's insane. There's so much opportunity
So
there.
that's probably one of those things in your business to where it's like you have to coach people quite frequently. Sometimes it's not the number of leads, right? It's the quality of your account managers or sales representatives that are getting back with people.
Yeah. We're doing a lot of that now, and it's the number one thing that we're working on this year, because it's so important. So
it's unbelievable. The story that I always tell people, or in my team, when I'm talking to them about where to put their focus, and also how important just every prospect interaction is to all the stuff that I just named out, for you, from the drone stuff we're doing to the building envelope consultant company that manages multiple portfolios that have national reach, to the commercial roofing company that's operating, to the landscaping business that just 2 years ago, my partner bought my equity position down to 10%, that gave me the ability to invest in big development deals. A lot of this shit came from like small little $3,000 to $2,000 repairs that led me to meet people. And through consistency and just the understanding of what value long-term relationships can bring, that's where a lot of the material success from a standpoint of my businesses come from. And so people who are throwing away, leads because they don't think it'll turn out as a replacement, or they think that somebody's just shopping. They really need to wake up, because there's people who are chasing what they see, on Instagram, and just always looking for the big stuff. They're missing the small things that those people who have the big stuff did to get there.
Yeah.
And one of those things is following up on those small leads.
Yeah. You got to call the damn leads.
I sense some level of frustration within you there.
Oh, initially, yes. And then it's like, okay, this is the actual problem. This is what no one's talking about. It's not sexy, and this is what we need to focus on. So I love that challenge, and trying to show and educate the business owners that this is where things are falling down and this is what needs fixing.
So I think that, I don't know if this is a vein you wanted to travel, but I think that it is something that's just so important if business owners or even sales reps, happen to catch this, is to, yes, focus on the leads, but coaching and teaching the lifetime value of a customer. And building your client base one customer at a time. Take care of them, then find the next one. Some of it probably has to do with just the timeline that people envision themselves being in a position, right? They're looking for that hit. They're looking for the next bit of money. And, there's a lot of things that I could attribute to what little success I believe I have, because I don't believe I've had a lot of success. I got a long way to go and very little time to do it in. But a few of the little successes I have had can definitely be attributed to doing what's right, following up on the leads, and making sure to take care of people.
Very humble there, sir, and we certainly appreciate that. But you definitely have experienced some success, and in a not heavily like a not it's not a very populated area where you've experienced a lot of success. So from memory, there have been years you've crossed the 20 mil per year mark. Calculated that up, it's quite a lot over the period of time you've been in business. So that advice is so important, and I think there needs to be a lot more focus on it. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to do a bit of word association with you, or maybe phrase association here. A couple of
Okay.
inside jokes, but I'm sure people, once they listen along and get to know me a bit more and yourself, they'll figure it out. So when I say I'm going to say a couple of things to you, just want you to hit me back
Wait,
with
is this a game we're about to play
a
here?
little bit. Just hit me back with
Whew.
whatever comes to mind. So when I say, "Can I get a draw?" What do you think?
Tim Nussbeck.
When I say, "Where's Kevin with his $2 leads?" What
I can't remember.
you can't remember?
It's somewhere within me, but I cannot remember what that was.
Yeah.
Who the hell was Kevin?
Kevin, there was a dude. Kevin, it is an actual guy, but it's like just think of Kevin as the typical marketer who was in
Yep.
roofing groups saying, "I can get you $2 leads or free leads or whatever it was."
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm so far removed. Is that still is Kevin still around?
he probably is. He's probably blocked us all, but it's just that it stands for the typical marketer who's talking bullshit.
It's like a Karen,
Yeah,
but it's a Kevin.
yeah,
I get it.
exactly. And this guy his name actually is Kevin, but you called him out. You were like, "Okay, we'll buy 10,000 of them if you've got $2 leads," and he ghosted and just created this whole
Yeah.
thing. It was kind of funny.
Never showed up again.
Not in our circle.
No.
And last thing, what the hell were we thinking getting into this roofing, advertising, marketing, Facebook thing all those years ago?
I don't know. You remember when this all started? We were in Stuman's mastermind group. I don't even remember what it was called at the time.
Yeah.
And I believe I told you that after I spent a weekend in Dallas with Tim Nussbeck and a couple other roofers, I had concluded, actually, I'm not a roofer. It's like, this is not what I am. And not to say that like Tim didn't become a great friend and enjoy a lot of people in the industry, but I decided I'm not a roofer. I'm not crazy enough to be a roofer.
And
But then it sucked you right in.
There was some big players there too, from memory, that you were networking with, but you weren't wild enough. Is that right?
What's that?
You weren't wild enough to consider yourself.
No. The stories that I heard, and of course, there's different types of roofers, right? There's the storm chasing roofer, which would be the crazy roofer, and I love those guys. There would be the new construction roofer that's a little bit more a different world. And then you've got just the people who more catch the storms and do a little bit of insurance work, a little bit of retail work. And the people that you got to realize, I went from a town of 14,000 people where I started and believed that I knew kind of what storm chasing was and all that, and got dropped right into the middle of a group of people who'd done it nationally with a bunch of crazies, the sales, not necessarily the people I met, but there's some crazy people in the sales world, and you know that by now.
Yeah.
So,
and that was my introduction.
Stories of
to
bar
roofing.
fights and girls in New York City and all kinds of stuff. I was like, I didn't know this came with the whole roofing deal.
It's insane. That was my introduction to the roofing industry. Before that, I had no recollection or much knowledge about it at all. So learning from world class best, it was crazy.
Yeah, but you guys have a fair amount of weather over there, don't you?
We do. We just don't have shingles. We have all our roofs in Australia are either metal, tin, or tile predominantly. So
somewhere along the way, somebody got smart. Instead of in Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, where we're at, marketing took hold. More along the lines of marketing by shingle manufacturers and roofers to keep putting the same shit on that keeps getting hailed out.
That's right. Yeah.
So Australians are just smarter.
However, I think if with an American sort of hard edge in the Australian market, you'd do extremely well, because not many people hit doors here. There's not a lot of marketing for roofing. There's not a lot of you'd have to educate them from the ground up. I remember showing you guys, I had hail damage back in 2017. No one's ever seen me come and talk to me about replacing my roof.
Right.
Just a complete different industry. So
Different world, right?
Different world, yeah. There's no roofers driving Ferraris in Australia, unfortunately.
There's not many that should be driving them here, but just an opinion.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have a quick look at some questions I've got for you, my man.
Sure. Bring them.
We talked, just before we sort of mentioned that you've done some decent numbers in a small town, and then you've sort of expanded that. What did that process look like?
As far as scaling and building, and I assume we're talking more about the roofing company, correct?
Roofing, and then also the landscaping and things like that.
Well, the process for landscaping versus roofing, very different. And I would like to say that I learned it, the right way with landscaping and then just carried that into the roofing side of things, but I didn't. I'll go back to the conversation of being a little bit more seduced by people who I believed were getting the results that I wanted. And you know what? Tim Nussback is one of those people, and nothing whatsoever against Tim or his brothers, Aspen, or any of the other ones. But I can tell you that that I would have scaled a lot faster. I would have been more profitable and had more success had I continued doing Andrew. Continue doing me, the way I do things, the way I'm effective, with small little refinements from what I learned from other people. So it's an odd place to start, but I will say that I'll start with I could have done it a lot faster and a lot more effectively had I not gotten so distracted by other people who I believed had success and began mirroring everything they were doing. I'm a firm believer that as a business owner, the business owner themselves is always the chokehold on the business, right? The level of personal development and the amount that they know themselves. And so I was asked actually on a friend's podcast a couple of weeks ago, and this topic came up, oddly enough. And they asked me about success and about the road to get there and what I did and what I didn't do. And I keep going back. It's kind of a constant theme lately. I could have gotten so much further, so much faster if I would have known myself better.
Yeah.
And what I mean that is like, what were my emotional triggers? What caused me to treat people good versus treat people bad? And, as soon as you figure out who you are as a person, what drives you, what motivates you, that's when you really do have the ability to go in and put together an organization with a strong set of core values, a strong set of, marketing department and how you want to do things and what speaks to you. So I will preface it with, regardless of what strategy any of your listeners or you hear, you got to know yourself first, because if you don't, you'll be like me, who really didn't know who I was, what I stood for, what I didn't stand for. And if you're like that, then you just try to pick up anything and everything to grow your business. And if those things aren't congruent with you, then they won't work for you.
Yeah.
It's like, the shit that works for Pat Nussback does not work for me.
Yeah.
The stuff that works for some of the guys that I met in Apex early on, that doesn't work for me. That's not who I am. It's not how I operate.
Yeah. That's great advice for any industry, any person, whether they're a business owner in sales or anything in life, really.
It is. I wish that somebody would have taught me that sooner. We so frequently as business owners, entrepreneurs, or managers, we go to workshops or seminars and we always want to go hear the latest thing. What's the latest marketing strategy or the latest widget, the most recent follow-up campaign, or how do I get 5 stars or whatever the fuck it is? I don't even know, on Google.
Yeah.
What is the mechanism that I do? What is the machine that I need to learn? And business in general, so little of it are those things.
Yeah.
It's so much about the people and who you are and what you're doing and your own, your own mode of operating as a person that really causes success.
Yeah.
What I found.
Yeah. I think back to some of my own experiences. One of my best friends has built an advertising business, and he's got a really big business with lots of staff, and I'm so proud of him and happy for him. But that model isn't what's right for me. And we often talk about that. He's got excellent revenue, big team, and the pressure and stress that comes along with that. Whereas our model is a lot more nimble and just working with the number of people that we want and choose. So it's really about what's right for the individual and their circumstance.
Well, I've got to commend you for knowing that and realizing that, because I didn't. Yeah. And going back to what did that look like growing and beginning to, I would say, growing, scaling, and then diversifying what I do, because it's definitely threefold. I've not started a roofing business or just one business and trying to scale it to $1 billion. I mean, I hope each organization that I start and get going grows, but for me, it's about starting, scaling it, and then diversifying into other things. And I could have done that a lot sooner had I stayed true to my original plan. So if you take this back all the way back to when I probably best would be 2016, 2017, because there's a decade before that we could talk about. But if we want to talk about the roofing organization and kind of the scaling side of it, I had started to get some pretty good traction in 2017 in the larger residential multifamily space and commercial side of things. Personally, I was not necessarily a large sales team between me, my brother, a couple other close sales reps that were working. We were putting up some larger numbers. We were moving from the a couple $1 million mark to 5 million up to 6 million, and that would have been right about the time where I was gaining some of those key relationships you mentioned a second ago. Asset managers that were higher up in these organizations. I was beginning to learn a little bit more about what a centrally controlled portfolio of real estate even was. For me, I always thought it was like some wealthy person down the road from the apartment complex that owned it. I didn't know any better. So I was beginning to learn these things and beginning to put some of these more, I guess, higher level decision makers in my Rolodex when I don't know why I keep going back to this, but became influenced by the flash and the big trucks and the wraps on your vehicles and all this stuff. And I met a couple of people that you and I met in masterminds that were at that point doing 10 plus million, maybe 20 million, 30 million. And I met Tim Nussbeck, who his brothers and he had built a $80 million roofing company. Right.
Crazy.
And so as I watched, there were some commonalities with those guys. And I am a firm believer in success leaves clues and that we should follow what other people do. But what I did is I ignored the process or the progress that I was making in a totally different space than them. These two groups that I'm talking about, they were hardcore door knockers, man. Like they built large sales teams, and it was like call and follow up with a client till they buy or die, right? And I'm not saying I'm against that strategy. It's a beautiful strategy that works. It's like, I love it, and I do too. So don't think I'm taking that in a total different direction. But that's how they built those businesses. Whereas what I was doing is I was calling clients till they buy it or died. I was following up. I was building all of that stuff. But I was discovering a new way of communicating and bringing these clients in that would make them captive. In other words, instead of doing one job in an apartment complex somewhere, I found the avenue and I built something that's totally outside of roofing that would allow me to capture a 100 property portfolio and be able to do their work all across the country just through me and a little bit of a back end staff, some advertising, some things like that. But I was just on the precipice and I didn't realize I was finding this out yet. And I became influenced by somebody else, by what I perceived the success I wanted. And I changed everything. I changed our marketing. I changed our look. I hired this big sales team of people. It created an immense amount of mental stress, emotional stress, relational stress with my wife, financial stress. It drove me up into a point in 2019 to where the business, which was established business, was struggling. It was struggling financially. It was struggling operationally. And it was a moment of the owner, myself, having an identity crisis, right? I was running the right trap. I knew what I was doing. And then I allowed some other things get in the way. And so in 2018, 19, realized that very quickly. Spent a lot of time whiteboarding and putting the process back together that I was I was running on, but I kind of pulled off of. And since about 2019 up into 2023 now, have stayed consistent running that play. And what has come from that is we've built a strong new construction department that does their thing in the roofing business. We've got a service department that does all service and repairs. It's on track to almost catch my project side of things. And it has also caused me to really understand on a deeper level the needs of larger portfolio managers. And that's where some of the other products and companies I mentioned at the start of this call came through.
Wow.
So that's a very short version of what it looks like.
Yeah. What was there a moment where you figured that out? Like, if you could go back in time and not make that mistake, or go through that massive struggle, which is easy to say now because you've been through
Right.
it, but what would be like, how would you do it differently?
I think what I would do, I wouldn't change anything from a standpoint of joining the and you call it a mastermind, but joining some of the coaching groups, being exposed to other contractors, being, working with you on building our leads and our advertising. I wouldn't take any of that back. I think that what I would do is just be a bit more mindful of the fact that this shit takes time.
Yeah.
And that just because I meet somebody, even if I do tomorrow, who's doing $50 million more than me, it doesn't mean that I can't get there, but there is some level of time and knowledge and building that has to be done to get there. So I think that if I could go backwards, I would study those people. I would be a bit more mindful about, again, who I was as a person. And here's a key thing for me: the way that I sell, the way that I provide value to people. I'm a very strategic thinker. Now, I don't mean that necessarily like I'm smart. It's just I'm strategic. I'm very analytical. I need to personally feel like I'm solving a big problem for somebody for me to be my best.
Yeah.
So that's how I bring value. So when I made the incorrect turn down this path of thinking we're just going to be door knocking heroes, I'm going to have a 30-person sales team, I'm going to rally the troops, and we're going to have these sales meetings and all this stuff, and it's going to be like buy, sell. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
And so I should have known that early on, and I'm built a more systematic company like I have now that is purely built upon relationships, more automated sales processes, with some of the similar, probably some of the stuff that you do now. We need to reconnect on these things, but less about having this like sales culture of a bunch of individuals who are out banging down the doors.
Yeah.
Just a very convoluted way to answer the question.
Yeah.
But I definitely would have just paused a little bit and realized that you don't necessarily have to change as a person to get similar results of the people that you look up to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's massive. There's so many good nuggets in that. So I really appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, I can't answer a question just like with one answer.
One thing we do, my wife and I, we went through a book called Traction, and it's probably one of the best. I think that's why I don't have that comparison to others anywhere near as much as I used to. But it's a very clear game plan on how to operate and how to be intentional with every area of business, from your vision, your core values, and then having a 10-year plan, 10-year picture, 3-year plan, 1 year, and then quarterly rock. So that's how we've done it. And I know you have a very similar process to that. Just seems like, and to be fair, the bright lights, the flashiness, the fast cars, it's hard not to fall into that trap because they are everywhere in the sort of networks that we were exposed to back in those days. So,
and don't get me wrong. I mean, here's what's so cool. Don't get me wrong. I still want those things.
oh yeah,
okay?
yeah,
But here's the thing. Once you really establish who you are, what you want, and you're focused on your shit, on your business, you find so much more joy in having larger amounts of cash in your company's bank accounts. You find so much more joy when you get a big win, being able to go invest in real estate or invest in something else. Like, look at this. Okay, here's the thing. Nothing on my wrist, right? I got my little girl's stuff here. When I met you and we were working together 2 or 3 years ago, I had a Rolex Submariner. I don't know what car I was driving. It was probably too nice. But like when you fall into your purpose and you fall into like really trying to build an organization that's taking care of people and scaling and making money, all that shit fades away. Like I don't want it. So about a year ago, I sold that Rolex for cash, put it in the safe, not because I needed the cash, but because of what that watch represented to me.
Yeah.
What that watch represented was me stretching for some stupid thing on my wrist. And again, not that watches are stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I will have a day date presidential, all gold.
No.
That is like the ultimate fuck you money watch. When is time for that?
Yeah.
But what's interesting is when you fall into what I feel for myself as real success, and that being a constant pursuit to just be a better version of me, to take care of my family, to be financially strong enough that if ACR needs an investment from me personally, I can do it. That's fucking success. It's not a Ferrari. It's not a Rolex watch. It's none of that shit. It's being able to provide, create wealth and abundance for people. And none of those things that, like you said, we saw coming into this, those don't necessarily provide it. They don't take it away. And I want to just make sure it's not taken out of context. Like I love nice things. I've got friends that have a lot of nice things. I have a few nice things myself, but that's not what it's about. And I just want to stress that falling victim to somebody else's Instagram filter and letting that drive business decisions is like the worst mistake you can make.
Yeah, that's such a great takeaway. And that's the other thing for that other individual who does have the Ferrari, that might be success to them. So that's why they've done that. We don't know their story. Yeah. So
I love it, man.
I
like
love
my business partner, he's got a beautiful new Range Rover, and went and test drove with him a G-Wagon the other day. And I mean, the artistry of those cars, I love them.
Yeah.
I love that he likes that. So I'm for it.
Yeah.
I'm for whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
You got gold teeth, baby. Let's do it.
I couldn't get a Ferrari up my driveway. It'd scrape out pretty bad, but we do have a Range Rover. And funny story about that. We just told our car guy, go and get us something nice for the family. We just had a ute, and I had a roofer's ute just to try and fit in. And we're like, we've got a new baby on the way. We need something nice. That's what he came back with. And it was a great business deal. It was a full tax write-off. And it just happens to be a Range Rover. It's a beautiful car. But yeah, that's why I got it. I didn't really think too much about it.
Is it a long wheelbase or the short one? It's probably just the normal. My wife's is just the normal. It's just the normal Range Rover, right? But we've been looking, and the long wheelbase gives you, I think, like 6-7 extra inches in that back seat. Because putting a child in that back seat, it tapers down. The whole sexiness of the car is that it tapers down in the back. It's kind of hard to get a child back there.
Yeah. We have a Velar.
These are real problems we have.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to hear about how you've not pivoted, but you've built on the roofing and construction business and landscaping to now be very well rounded in the other areas that you've done. How did you you saw an opportunity there and you wanted to strengthen and solidify or diversify? Seems like it just made sense. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, combination of things. So I describe myself a lot of times as like just a fire starter. I can't always manage the fire. Like I can't always make sure it stays lit. But I've always had a desire to have multiple organizations, to be able to grow and create opportunity. So some of it has been that, but some of it has been just as I have, again, learned how my customer operates and what their needs are. I've felt a requirement to rebrand and rechange some things, or reorganize some things. So, the landscaping deal, I started that operation because I found out real quick that I personally did not want to be in sales my entire life. I wanted, again, we go back to the conversation of congruency, who I am as a person. So I had been doing roofing sales. That's where I started, was knocking doors, residential roofing sales. That's where I made my first bit of money to be able to support me and my girlfriend at the time, now wife. But I started the landscaping company, and I ran that for probably 9 to 10 years. I had a dream of building a very refined organization that really understood the bigger picture of what they were doing for clients. Our tagline was create, enhance, maintain. And everything about it was enhancing the quality of life for our customers in the outdoors. That was what we were there to do. I always preached to my team and taught, listen, we're not there just to mow grass. We're there to provide a better quality of life. And there's a lot of stories that I can tell in relation to people's stress levels and just how they operate when they're in clean environments. But that was the whole goal. So I ran that business for 9 or 10 years. And truthfully, that's not a story of me being like a wildly wise person. I built it to the point that I hated it. I was so tired of it. I was so worn out with dealing with customer complaints. I built a very strenuous relationship with that business. I gave it a lot of my younger years, from waking up at 4 a.m. and staying up at the office till 10 o'clock at night. I got to the point to where I had a key player that I walked into the office one day, set him down. I said, his name's Ben. He's now my business partner, who fast forward a few years later, he bought the company from me.
Yep.
But one day I sat down with him and I said, Ben, I will let this motherfucker burn to the ground.
Yeah.
Is how I feel about this. Or if you want to take it on, you want to start to run it, I will support you. I will be there. Luckily, I was blessed with him in my life. He was there. He was ready to take on, and we continued to build that company for 4 or 5 years. But the first step in that whole constellation, if you will, was kind of divorcing myself a little bit from the landscaping company and getting into the commercial roofing space.
Gotcha.
So that first one was just like, I built a company to the point that it was no longer something that I wanted to do. I felt much bigger and larger opportunity. Some of it from a cash standpoint and a money standpoint, bigger numbers in the roofing side of things.
Yeah.
So I started doing that and built that business. And then the next kind of pivot that you would call that there is that after I discovered that I didn't want to have a 50-person sales team and deal and run my business in that area, I began to meet and understand property managers, asset managers, CFOs, and people who made decision at the real estate investment trust level and the property fund level for these big centrally controlled portfolios. So I started to really understand what their true need was. And as soon as I understood that, I realized that they don't so much respond to roofers all the time.
Yeah.
And initially, one of the pivots that I made was just rebranding a different organization to provide a different product that I can't necessarily speak about on this show.
Yeah.
That was a little bit more sophisticated and a little bit broader scope than just the roofing side of things. And so continued to build the roofing company, but that would have been a divergence from just doing roofing, and really found a level of passion inside of, again, solving a bigger problem. And so that little pivot there was more just following the customer need. What do they really need?
Yeah.
And, I think the mark of any good salesman or any good business owner is that they are just obsessed with solving their customers' needs. And I've always heard that. I've always believed that. So that's what I continue to try to do. So that would have been a pivot that we made. And then, of course, we can fast forward through a couple of the other businesses, but essentially it was similar.
Yeah.
After we started working with some of these real estate investment trusts, we realized that there were national roofing groups and other organizations that had massive reaches that didn't have the tools that we'd built from a financial standpoint. So we began to white label and provide services for some very large national groups. Again, all to the end of trying to solve a bigger problem. That's that.
And how did you figure out what they really needed? I know you mentioned it took you to getting into bed with them and learning more about them.
It started with my frustrations.
Yeah.
As a contractor, as somebody who was trying to communicate to somebody something as simple as you have hail damage and all your units are leaking. Why in the hell aren't you replacing, your roofing system?
Yeah.
That would have been one of the things that just my own frustration of trying to get in front of people. And rather, I guess, than just hammering that same person or hammering 30 people, it was a built-in curiosity in me, I suppose.
Yeah.
As to, okay, what is the reasoning? And then a willingness to accept if the issue was something other than what I believed, right? So without getting very descriptive there, what I mean by that is just going and asking the right questions, having an insatiable appetite to understand another person, thinking there's no way there's somebody sitting somewhere who's just avoiding taking care of this property. So what is it?
Yeah.
Is it a budgeting issue? Do they have a national roofer? So I just dug and dug and dug until I got a little bit more at the core at how these organizations work.
Yeah.
Gives you opportunity to build relationships.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You recognize there is a big problem, and then through pure frustration and curiosity, you're wanting to dig deeper until you solve it, not giving up until you do.
And it's a dichotomy of how a person operates, because we typically start with things in sales or whatever it is to serve ourselves. Fair enough. Like we go out and we're going to sell a roof or sell whatever it is so that we can make a commission for ourselves. But somewhere along the way, the greats figure out that actually what I'm here to do is to contribute. I'm here to understand. I mean, we hear all the time, uncover their pain point, right? In some sort of bullet point list of how you sell. And I think all the losers out there, they take that as just a list and a script of what they're supposed to do instead of understanding that the people that are wiping their ass with wiping their floor with whatever the fuck the terminology is, kicking their ass, are actually, digging to understand the other person and solve a problem.
That's right.
That's the mark of a real salesperson, as far as I'm concerned. They're looking for ways that they can provide more value than the other person.
And now you're getting some fantastic leverage out of being very holistic in your approach to roofing, construction, real estate.
Yeah, I got some big stuff coming up, man.
Well, then the question must be asked that I kind of put out there earlier. Can I get a goddamn draw?
The draw's coming. Hey, man, it's been 5 or 6 years in the making. I think you got a draw on the way.
I'll always ask, even if it's just for a joke.
Yeah.
What's a question I should have asked you but haven't?
Oh my gosh, a question that you should have asked me that you haven't. Let's see. We covered personal development. The chokehold on any business as the owner.
Yeah.
We covered being yourself. You asked me for a draw. Man, I think we covered it.
Covered it all?
I think we got it.
Unless
there's something you want to ask that you just haven't.
No. I think we've gone through all the different areas and given a lot of value today. Where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, the best place is andrewammons.com, a website set up that send everybody to Instagram or wherever they want to go. At Andrew C. Ammons on Instagram is where I put most of my content out. Try to be consistent with it, so that's best. Awesome. You can follow along this year.
Any final words, final thoughts before we wrap things up?
I don't think so. Just to actually, to the business owner out there, I would say, who is constantly feeling a level of comparative sadness because you're constantly watching everybody else. Half of the people that you are comparing yourself to are full of shit.
Yeah.
And the other half, maybe they've got it, but they had to go through exactly what you're going through right now to get there, and just keep fucking going.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
I love it. Mr. Andrew Ammons, you've been fantastic. Thank you for joining the I Drink From Skulls podcast. That's a wrap. We'll see you on the next episode.